my nose, there got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, there got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, there got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, there got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, there got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, there got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, there got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, there got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, there got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, there got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. though. Cocaine in my nose, yeah, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my OG, got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, yeah, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my OG, got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, yeah, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my OG, got me locked in on cup though.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be back. George Morgan here at your service. It's PSGL, it's Wednesday night, it's Spain tonight as well. Lots on the table, lots of battling. The title contest is still alive and kicking. And Jack, it's only taken us 10 rounds. We're on the 11th. It's all to play for.
Boromant goes on the inside and takes the lead on the final lap of the race. Now it's side by side between Boromant and Warner, but Boromant's got the inside.
Literally a guest star here in this phenomenal race. Cameron Dowd looking to take P2 in his very first PSGL F1 PC race. Incredible to say the least. You see that Putin's the lead. 1.5 seconds. DRS is the name.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to PSGL here on the PlayStation TS. We're back once again for more F4 action, this time round number 6. As we head to the Temple of Speed, my name is, of course, Michael Edwards, going to be taking you through the action, and joining alongside me, as always, is the one, the only, Quinn. How are you doing, Quinn?
Yeah, I'm feeling really good, of course. As you said, we're at the Temple of Speed, and Monza is such an iconic track in the world of F1, and here it's going to be no different. Just one of the highest average top speeds out of all of the tracks in the F1 calendar, and yeah, it's going to create a lot of excitement for us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, it's going to be interesting with the chicanes as well. Obviously, providing good overtaking opportunities around the circuit itself. So let's have a little look at the circuit in question. Actually, it's the wrong circuit I got set up here. I do apologize, guys. Give me 2 minutes and I'll get that sorted. But yeah, Monza, one of those tracks where it is all about the runs you get out the chicanes around a track like this.
Yeah, definitely. You gotta be really careful on the throttle input, and even just taking the chicanes, you've got to be making it all count. You've got to be pinpoint accurate going through the chicanes.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just gonna be really important with your throttle input on the exit.
Absolutely, and of course the track in question is the Temple of Speed. It is of course Monza. 11 iconic corners around this circuit, and of course it is a 5.7, almost 5.8 kilometer circuit, almost 3.6 miles. And as mentioned, the chicanes are going to be the key areas, but of course 2 DRS zones, one down in towards the first chicane at the Rettifilo, I believe the name of the first chicane is, and then of course down in towards Ascari as well. Of course, qualifying is underway, so we'll jump on over into qualifying in just a moment as we take you through what happened last week here in F4, of course, around Austria, and it is, of course, Kuhlmann who did take victory in the end. And again, Quinn, the race winning curse happened again, because obviously Nico won round number 4, and it was an absolute horror show for him last time out in Austria. Will we see the curse strike again for Kuhlmann? Because it's happened every single race so far. Yeah, of course, last time out it was Kuhlmann who took victory. Azim came through in second place, and Lorenzino came through to complete the podium with Rara in P4, Giovanni P5, Tiramisu in P6. Then we had Lars, the reserve driver, coming in to finish in P7, Fashion Gold in P8 with Mustache in P9, and of course Tiago, they're picking up that final point position in 10th place. Fastest lap, of course, did go to Nico. And of course, Lars did get pole position, and what that has done in terms of the driver standings, it does mean that Nico still leads the way, but that gap now has been cut in half. It was 16 points, it's now 8 points between Nico and Rara. So Rara closing up, but Kuhlmann jumping up now into third place on 34 points. Azim up to fourth on 30 points. Then Giovanni in fifth on 28. It is starting to bunch up once again as we are essentially right now at the midpoint of the season, almost exactly, obviously round 6 out of 11, the midpoint of the season now, and it is beginning to bunch back up once again.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely interesting to see how the field bunches up and spreads out after certain races. Of course, some of the races are going to favour other drivers more than others. Well, some drivers more than others, and yeah, you just see the ebb and the flow throughout the season, and yeah, it's getting quite close at the top now.
Yeah, and again, we like to point out the curse has been going on for the drivers now this season. So of course, we had Giovanni win in Suzuka round 1, and then finished 10th at Qatar. Then we had Nico win in Qatar, then finished 15th at Hungary. Then we had Sasha win at Hungary, then DNF at Las Vegas, and then we had Nico win in Las Vegas and finish 14th with the fastest lap at Austria. And then of course we had Kuhlmann winning last time out in Austria. And we come in tonight, and he's going to be the one hoping that he can break that curse in terms of the race winners going on to have a good race in the following round. But of course, that is how the Drivers' Championship is looking. Still very close. Lorenzino in 6th place on 27 points. Then of course we got Paul, who I don't believe is here tonight. I believe we got a reserve in Frank stepping up, taking his seat in the Williams for tonight. So Paul not here again, but he's down in 7th on 20 points. Then of course we got Sasha in 8th on 16, tied with Tiramisu in 9th, also on 16 points. And we've got CPI Fraser rounding up the top 10 on 15 points. But looking at the constructors as well, and it's beginning to bunch back up again in the constructors. Of course, Williams leading the way on 57 points, but with Paul not being around for the past 2 races, and of course Rara with a 10th place in Vegas, and of course picking up P4 last time out in Austria, it's meant that the Alpines have been able to close back up, and the Haas are not too far behind. The same with the AlphaTauris as well. They're all starting to close back up to the Williams pairing again.
Yeah, they definitely are, and like we were saying before with the Williams pairing, of course, with Paul not being here, there's going to be no disruption between the two, like we've seen earlier in the season.
Yeah, absolutely, and of course that has been a hot topic now through the course of the season. The little bit of inter-team battling that's been going on between the Williams pairing has always been fantastic to keep an eye on. But without further ado, shall we jump on over into qualifying, because we are 7 minutes into the session. The guys are starting to come out on this second run, so I think there's no better time but right now to jump on over into the action out on track in qualifying. What do you reckon?
Yeah, sounds like a good idea. We've got Aguado just coming out of the pits, the first of the drivers to start their outlap for their second runs, and I believe that is King coming out as well just behind him. It's very fitting that these two are out on track at the same time, considering last season with us in F6 it was quite a feisty battle for the championship between these two.
Yeah, absolutely, and of course that went all the way down to the final round in Abu Dhabi last season in F6, and it was shaping out to be a very tense final race in terms of what was going to happen in the Drivers' Championship, but an instant for Aguado essentially took him out of the championship and pretty much handed it over to King in the end. But that was F6, that was last season. Now we're in F4 and it's this season, so Aguado, of course, over the course of the season has had a few ups and downs so far.
What's happened to Rara?
Rara getting an illegal blocking time penalty, placement penalty in qualifying, but that potentially may lead to a restart, because sometimes the game does want to absolutely do some people over with those kind of penalties. But we're going to be on board with Aguado as he is approaching down now towards Parabolica, and we'll go on a full lap here of the Temple of Speed here at Monza with Aguado as he comes through Parabolica to get his lap underway, and DRS will be wide open as we run down in towards the Retofilo chicane. And looking at the braking for this, it'll be just before the 100-meter, braking down, third gear there for Aguado. Me personally, I tend to go down at the second, short shift up in the third, just to get a little bit more bite, but obviously Aguado much more confident with his turning than what I am as we go through Curva Grande now, as we approach the De La Rocha chicane, the first sector split for Aguado. And he is about half a tenth up as we go through the De La Rocha chicane and now into the Lesmos. And now Lesmo 1/5 gear, throw the car in, let it run a little bit onto the exit curb, but now through Lesmo 2. A little bit of a snap on the inside curb there, but DRS wide open now as we run down in towards Ascari. The middle sector split, what is it saying for Aguado? And he's lost a lot of time in the middle sector through Ascari, and now keeps it nice and smooth, no back end loss, no getting too greedy on the curves, and now the run all the way down in towards Parabolica, the final corner of the circuit. 50-meter board, braking, throwing the car in, letting the car run out wide, using all the track possible to the line, cutting back close to the inside to minimise the distance, and it will be Aguado improving by 8 thousandths of a second, but definitely there's more time there for him.
Yeah, definitely. It was a clean run other than the mistakes they had, obviously, but on board we go with King as he comes to the line. Will be an improvement, 118.7 up into P4 for King.
Yep, King coming through, putting himself up into P4, of course taking the Scuderia Ferrari seat here tonight. And is he in that seat for the rest of the season? I don't think he is yet, is he? I think he's still reserve driver, but
yeah, I think he's a reserve.
Yeah, Giovanni now coming through Ascari, of course, a race winner this season. It's going to be looking to make it another race win for him, but maybe with this curse, maybe he'll be more wanting to get some P2 results instead to have that consistency. But coming through Parabolica now, Giovanni to the line. In fact, he's going to bail out into the pit lane. 7 minutes to go in qualifying. Here's Rara currently out on provisional pole with an 18.5. Marginally ahead of Aguado, who's up there in P2, and Aguado looking pretty good so far in terms of qualifying in this session.
Yeah, he is. It's been very good for the front three, all within a tenth of each other. Then there's a bit of a gap back to Nico and King and Giovanni, and yeah, it's quite spread out for a grid that's, for the whole season, has been relatively close. Especially last race in Austria compared to that is almost, well, a tenth or two more, well, spread this race than it is in the last one. But we've still got a few drivers yet to set any times. We've got Fashion Gold, Harrison and Mustache. Mustache invalidated, and he's coming into the pits again. Harrison, I think, is just going to be doing his first flying lap.
Ooh, big
so
snap
I'm going to stick on board. Oh, yeah.
So obviously that is going to be disappointing for Harrison. He knows he's not going to be setting the times alight with that exit on the first chicane, and that is the key around this circuit, just getting the best traction possible out of the chicanes. Is the 27.7 in the first sector for Harrison. And also, you mentioned about the lap times, now a bit of a gap between a couple of people, but let's not forget 14 drivers have set a lap time so far, and there's 7 times separating all 14. It's still very close.
True. Yeah, it's still very close, but obviously coming off the back of Austria, where there was essentially about half a second throughout the whole grid, it just exaggerates it a little bit as Harrison invalidates coming out of the exit, well, coming out of Ascari, which he's in the same boat as Mustache here and Fashion God. They're going to leave it right to the end and just pile the pressure on to get a lap done.
Yeah, as we...
But Aguado, once again, sorry to cut you off there, but Aguado coming out very early to do his last lap. Maybe just...
Well, let's go. One thing that I will
in this instance, on a track like this, you don't want to be the first person to set a lap time towards the end.
Well, you might, let's go, come straight back into the pits at the end of this outlap. Maybe he's just doing like a little bit of a sight there just to see, let's go, like if he can take a little bit extra here and there, a couple of corners. But I can say, obviously, Harrison has had some connection issues, obviously disconnected from the lobby. He has managed to rejoin, obviously, due to him going on that qualifying lap. But that could be an issue with the disconnection there. And of course, Rara with a penalty. What's called? We will let you know if it is going to be a restart lobby. But just under 4 minutes to go in the session now. Aguado should either be coming straight back into the pit, so he'll be looking to commit onto this lap, and maybe, just maybe, he wants to get enough time where he can do 2 runs in case he invalidates his first one. But in the chat we got Lucas Maloney saying hi in the chat. Hello Lucas, how are you doing? And of course we got Aguado in the chat as well saying screen. Maybe once that's the screen shot him up there on the front row right now, but he's going again now down in towards the Retafilio chicane. Aguado breaking down third gear, all about good traction on the exit here, and he does get good traction now through Curva Grande. Haas getting out of the way. King with a 5-place grid penalty for illegal blocking, and I think with multiple people now starting to get that penalty, it will probably lead to a restart here.
Yeah, definitely will. That's the third person, I believe, who has an illegal blocking penalty. I believe Havnik, Rara, and now King, who have all had the illegal blocking penalties.
Yeah, absolutely. As Aguado now with DRS wide open on the rundown in towards Ascari, and there we go, over a 10th up in the middle sector. That is what Aguado wanted. and he was marginally on the
he
limits
was.
there. But Aguado there, he is still on a valid lap, coming into Parabolica now, and this should be a 0.4 by you, maybe even sneaking into a 0.3 for Aguado as he comes to the line. And it is an 18.4 provisional pole for Aguado now.
Yeah, it was a very good lap there from Aguado, and yeah, here comes the traffic for Rara, which it's not looking like a clean run of a lap for Rara here, but as long as he gets through cleanly and everyone recognises that he's on a fast lap, then it shouldn't really be an issue for Rara here.
Well, right now, just a little bit further out the road was King, but he's back out of his lap, so we'll jump on board with Rara. I think Rara's also back out of his lap.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he got on the exit. Of first Lesmo way too much, and he just got off the track, and he backed out of the lap. And we've still got a few people. Well, I'm not sure how I feel about Aguado still setting that lap quite early on towards the end, because he's out of fuel. He's got 0.3 left, so he won't be going for another lap, and he's got everyone else gearing up to do their final laps now. So it's going to be a big waiting game for him to see if he's actually secured pole position.
Yeah, but I think the big thing Aguado will be happy about is that he did manage to do his lap with relatively no traffic in his way. So Mustache now to the line to set his first lap time of the session, 19.1. Still waiting for lap times to come through from Fashion Gold and Harrison, who are both coming through the first sector right now. I believe the next man across the line is Giovanno, who is going to be taking a little bit of slipstream off the Mercedes ahead of him, which might help him here as he improves by about half a tenth, but doesn't improve his position. But very close between himself and King. King marching up in the first sector, so he's improving. We got Nico on his outlap, I believe, potentially. And I think he's backed out completely.
Rara.
Rara! On the exit of the De La Rosa chicane, I'm guessing just overstepping it a little bit, getting too much onto the exit curb in there, maybe touching the gravel, and around he goes. On board right now with Half Milk, as the checker flag has fallen in the session. Half Milk, he's 2 tenths down on his time. Fraser up into P4, and what can King do? King coming into Parabolica, he's invalidated. Giovanno's on a cooldown lap as well. Tiramisu, obviously he's on a lap, he's marginally down in the middle sector. Harrison crosses the line, 19.4. We'll stay on board with Tiramisu now, because I believe Tiramisu, the only man left on a flying lap that could improve here as he comes down into Parabolica. And in fact, I scratch that as he has invalidated his run.
Yeah, well, let's see what time it would have been. It just would have been a 19.2. But that is qualifying over, and it's Aguado in pole position. It seems like setting that lap early on, his final lap earlier than everyone else, was a good thing for him eventually.
Yeah, so we'll run you through the order one more time. It is, of course, Aguado on pole position with an 18.4, just under a tenth ahead of Rara, who will join him on the front row. Half Milk in P3 with Fraser in P4. Nico comes through in P5 with King in P6. Giovanno in P7. Lorenzino in P8. And then we've got Coolman in P9 with Thiago rounding out the top 10. Outside the top 10, we have WR Thomas, IRT Frank, JR Ticho. Then we've got NLR Mustache, Tiramisu in 15th, ET8 Harrison in 16th, and of course Fashion Gold going to be starting from the back of the field. And I believe it will be a lobby restart. So that is the grid we will be going with, but we'll jump back over to the commentator corner. Of course, very intriguing qualifying session there with, of course, Aguado going out there a little bit early, making sure he had the track all to himself, and that is what benefited the most for him, because no traffic meant that he was able to get a free run, and he did manage that, and also picked up the pole position in some fashion as well.
Yeah, it was very good qualifying all round, of course. From all of the guys that set lap times, it was about a second that separated the whole grid, which we've seen closer in a few races this season, but yeah, it was a fantastic qualifying for Aguado. And even Fraser as well, getting P2 for himself is set him up. Set himself up for very.
It was P4, a couple of place grid penalties as well. What you've seen with it,
yeah,
but
P4, yeah.
Fraser, great qualifying for him as well. But before we get back into the action, we will now go to our intermission, and we'll be back in just a moment, guys. So we'll see you in around 30. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Of course, we are having a lobby restart here. My name is, of course, Michael Edwards, joined by Quinn, as always, here in F4 for the PlayStation tiers in PSGL. Of course, Aguado taking pole position in Monza, and of course, going to be starting from the best position possible. But around here, I wouldn't say that is the best position possible, because it is such a long run down in towards turn number 1.
Yeah, it's much like other tracks that have a long run into, well, the first heavy braking zone. I personally think P3 is the best place to start. Purely because if you're starting P2, you're going to have no one ahead of you. If you're starting P3, you've got the guy in P1 ahead of you, giving you a lovely little slipstream down into turn 1. So yeah, P3 is, well, in my opinion, the best place to start.
Yeah, of course, having the slipstream off the start as well is one of those key things you want on the run down in towards turn 1, especially here, because the heavy braking zone in towards the Rettifilio chicane is definitely something that you want on the run down in towards turn number 1. Apologies if I'm looking away from the camera right now, guys. I'm trying to get screenshots now for the lobby host, so I do apologize for that. But yeah, in terms of what we're seeing, of course, it was 1 second separating the entire field that did manage to set a lap time. Harrison, of course, 1 second and 7 thousandths of a second off of pole position, which is, of course, not ideal for him, but it is a long race here at Monza.
Yeah, it's definitely not ideal, but we've seen what can happen in races at Monza. Just like utter chaos can ensue on the race. So yeah, it could all come back to Harrison come the end of the race, but yeah, for the time being, it's not a great start for himself.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, in terms of the race winning curse that we have seen in F4 over the course of the season, I mean, Coleman qualified P9. Now, he is one of those drivers that can make his way through the field, but that race winner's curse, I think over the course of the season, has proved to be very true in terms of just going into the next race and getting a good result. But Coleman down there in P9, he's always been very consistent so far this season. And will we be seeing Coleman break that curse and get a good result after taking a race win? That's going to be the big question.
Yeah, it could be, and like you mentioned, it's a very... Coleman is one of the drivers who can definitely has the pace and the know-how to really make moves through a field. And yeah, like we've seen in a few races, there have been some quite big DRS trains. So hopefully, especially here, he doesn't get caught up in any of them, and he can be able to make his way through the field.
Yeah, absolutely. So a quick reminder of the track in which we are racing at. Of course, is the Temple of Speed. We're here for Monza, round number 6, 5.7, 3.6 mile circuit, 5.7 kilometers, almost 5.8, 11 corners around here as well. And of course, a lot of overtaking opportunities down in towards the Rettifilio chicane. If you get a good run out of the Rettifilio chicane, you get an opportunity down at the Della Rocha chicane. And obviously, through the Lesmos is not ideal going side by side through there, but it is possible. And of course, with DRS down in towards Ascari, we could be seeing some moves. But I think the exit of Ascari on the run down in towards Parabolica is sometimes more important than the run in towards Ascari. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I personally think that, well, it all depends on how you take Ascari, really. If you get a good entry into it and you're able to keep on the throttle, then you've got every chance of either keeping a position or getting the overtake done. So, yeah.
We've got one of the drivers in the chat, IRT Frank, saying he bottled P2. So it looks like Frank was on for a good qualifying result, and unfortunately it fell away, maybe down towards an invalidation or just maybe a back end loss. But quick reminder again of the championship standings. So of course in the drivers there's Nico leading the way on 45 points, and of course we've got Rara in second on 37. 34 points for Coolman, last week's race winner, in P3. And then of course we've got 30 points for Azim in P4. Giovanno in 5th on 28 points. 27 points for 6th place man Lorenzino. And then of course we got Paul in P7 in the championship on 20 points. And 4 points back from him is Sasha in P8. And of course we've got Tiramisu both tied on points with 16 points apiece. And obviously Tiramisu in P9. Fraser running up the top 10 on 15 points. And of course we've got Havmik in 11th on 12 points. 11 points for Aguado, currently down in 12th place. Of course Papine has unfortunately left the season. Of course he is on 10 points in 13th place. Passion Gold also on 10 points in 14th. Then of course we've got Tiago in 15th place on 9 points. 7 points for Hario in 16th place, who was also left the season unfortunately there. And of course Lars, a reserve driver, on 4 points in 17th place. And of course George Ansel in 18th on 2 points. Same for Harrison Holmes, and of course Mustache there rounding out the top 20 on points. Frank confirming that it was an invalid lap that unfortunately he did set. But looking at the constructors as well, Williams lead the way on 57 points, 49 points for the Alpines in second, 45 points for the Haas in third, 42 for the Alpha Tauris in fourth. Then we've also got a big gap then back to Alfa Romeo on 28 points, 27 points for the Aston Martins, 26 points for the Mercedes, very close between those three teams, 11 points on the McLarens, Red Bull on 9 points, tied with Scuderia Ferrari. So two big teams at the back of the bunch there, and it looks like we are getting ready to just about go into the race itself. And I can't lie, Quinn, I'm looking at the sky and I'm very, very conscious of what I'm seeing up there in the sky at the moment.
Yeah, it's looking very, very cloudy, but I've had a look in the chat and apparently the weather for the whole race was going to be it was going to be cloudy for the whole race, so I don't believe there's going to be any rain at all.
Well, I mean, hopefully not, because Monza in the wet is not an experience I think anyone enjoys. But of course, before we get going, we'd like to obviously put a big reminder to the drivers: make sure you remember your setups. Do not forget them around here, because that could be absolutely race ending from the jump, and it's not something that anyone really wants to do, because forget your setup around here, it's race over immediately. I don't know if you agree or not, but to me, I think it's race over immediately.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting, this race. It'll be very interesting.
Yeah, well, let's go ahead and jump on over to the action now on track. So we go to those 5 red lights. Lights out, and we are underway. 27 laps of racing ahead of the 17 drivers as Aguado gets a good start down in towards turn number 1. Half Milk having a look around the outside, and a little bit of contact here with Rara as they come through the first chicane. Nico and Fraser side by side in the background as well. 2x2 is like Noah's Ark here, and oh my god, look at Fraser trying to force his way around the outside of Rara there, but Rara able to hold off there, but Half Milk up into P2, Rara down to P3, Fraser holding off the attack of Nico, and King currently in P6 holding ground with Giovanni in P7. Everyone on a set of the hard compound tyres. Good choice from everyone here tonight as Ticho gets through on Lorenzino up into P10, goes to Red Bull, and everyone has got off to a very good start, I think, very clean as well as King goes up to the back of Nico.
Yeah, it's a very clean start. It's kind of surprising for Monza Turn 1 because it's synonymous in league racing for having just a huge accident at Turn 1.
Sorry to get in. King with a brilliant run out of Ascari. Gets the move down on Nico on the run down in towards Parabolica. Gets right underneath that rear wing of Fraser as well. On a bit of the battery coming out the Parabolica. And this could be a potential overtake down in towards the first chicane, the Rettifilio, and looks like Fraser's going to try and use a bit of battery to fight back, but King trying to outbrake him, go around the outside, which will turn to the inside for the second part of the chicane, but unfortunately unable to get the traction, and that is, unfortunately, that is the issue with trying to overtake into the first chicane. As soon as you commit around the outside and you're at the inside, normally you do not get the run that you need to make the overtake happen for you.
Yeah, you're just gonna have too small of an angle to actually turn in, and you're gonna have to slow down so much. So that's the compromise. If you try to get a better run through turn 1, you're gonna compromise your run through turn 2, and the guy ahead of you is just gonna defend for his life and keep the position as shown by Fraser there. And yeah, everyone is pretty much line astern. Frank is the one driver who's getting close to being out of DRS range. Of course, he didn't have the best qualifying, but he's sticking relatively close to the back of Lorenzino and Coolman just to bring himself up. He is in a Rebel Sandwich currently in P9, so could be getting very close as I see Rara actually getting very close. Is banging wheels with Havmik, goes for the dive down the inside, has the better line, but Havmik
gets good traction
does squeeze him, but yeah, Rara better traction as you were saying, gets the better traction and up into P2 Rara goes, but Havmik is not giving this up.
Yeah, and of course that is the issue with the Rettifilio chicane. As I did mention, it's all about the traction on the exit of that, and generally the car on the outside of the second part of that chicane generally is the car that gets the better traction. But I mean, Havmik did put up a bit of a challenge, did not want to concede that position, but position has been conceded. Lap 3, DRS is now activated. Aguado leads away, but of course he has not broken away from the rest of the field, so it's going to be difficult for him to break away now with DRS activated. But Rara closing right up as we go through Ascari, and yeah, Aguado now is going to be under some serious pressure.
King's got a massive run out of Ascari there and finds himself up into P4, so King in his first race here in F6, I believe, is really showing his pace. He's showing his worth here.
I think you're getting flashbacks to last season, because this is of course F4, not F6, as Giovanni comes through to overtake Nico up into P6 as Giovanni goes through. As up ahead, King having a look at Havmik coming through the Rettifilio, and Havmik, I think, was also having a look at Rara as well, getting very close on the exit of the Rettifilio chicane was Havmik and Rara, and once again it's starting to get a bit spicy here in F4.
Yeah, it is, and just looking back, I mentioned it before with Frank, I was keeping within DRS range, but he's seemingly struggling, although mistake from Ticho through the second chicane of this track has brought him back into DRS range of Ticho. So yeah, what looked to be not great for Frank is now really not looking good for Teacher.
Well, I tell you what, Rara with DRS getting right underneath the rear wing of that McLaren. But we have seen many times now the run that King has got out of Ascari has put him into some fantastic positions to get overtakes done. He's not going to go for any moves down into Parabolica on Havmik, but these guys are so close to each other that Aguado, by the time we get to the first chicane, the first biggest one, could be down in P4.
Yeah, he could definitely be down in P4, but you know, there's high speed. We could get a free wide moment. Oh, no, don't do it. Very close. And King, once again, he's just looking at the outside line.
Giovanni
of course, you want to have
side by side on the exit of the first chicane as they come through Curva Grande. Giovanni on the outside. Fraser on the inside, but look at this, Giovanni's still going to keep it in there. He's got his nose, he's halfway alongside for the break-in of the De La Rocha chicane. Down the inside goes Giovanni, a little bit of wheel-to-wheel contact between the pair of them, and that will allow Nico to try and get it through as well. And look at that, Thiago down the inside into the first Lesmo. Thiago tried to sneak his way through, unable to do so. The Haas holds on to P7, but my God, it has kicked off for P5. But what that has done is allowed the 1 second gap to build between Giovanni and King.
Oh, car going down the inside of Fraser. Contact. Oh, Fraser drop it down the field now. Contact between the two, Nico and Fraser.
Oh, free wide in the parabolic as Lorenzino down the inside of both. Nico and Thiago there. And we got Kuhlmann, last week's race winner, in the mix as well as they come down the start finish straight to begin lap number 6. Free wide coming down the start finish straight, and it could be four wide. Yes, absolutely. Yes, they're jostling for position in towards the break-in for the Rettifilio chicane, and it is going to be Nico holds on to P6, Thiago up into P7, but that has squeezed out Lorenzino's under pressure now from Kuhlmann for P8. Around the outside, through the Curva Grande goes Kuhlmann. Unable to get alongside enough though.
Yeah, and throughout all of that, Rara managed to get ahead of Aguado. Massive lock up there for Lorenzino.
And that was Ticho as well going off, taking the runoff area as well there. So both Ticho and Lorenzino there making mistakes through the De La Rocha chicane, and of course that allows Kuhlmann to get himself up into P8 there.
Yeah, and looking at the ERS of everyone, Havmik has still got 100%. He practically hasn't touched it, but once again, look at King and his run. He is on the button, he is on ERS. He is getting a slipstream from Aguado ahead, but he opts not to go for it. And yeah, had a little bit of a snap, did Aguado there on the exit of Parabolica, but he's still sticking in behind. He's on the button, he's on the ERS. He's off it now and just looking behind this Rara. Now going back further down is Thiago getting a move done.
Havmik tried around the outside. He's still there on the inside of the second part of the chicane, but unable to get the traction. But that could open things up for
what's going on here? I'm not sure what happened there for Harrison, but he was going into turn 1 and then he got reset back to
safety car.
The pit lane. Yeah, I'm really not sure what happened to Harrison there. I saw him dropping down, so I went on board with him, and his car reset back to the pit lane. Well, the exit of the pit lane. Not sure what happened for Harrison.
Well, here we are, lap 7 of 27. Safety car has been deployed. Aguado still leads this race. We have Rara in second place, Havmik in P3, King up into P4 after a fantastic start. Let's have a look at who's gained the most in the opening 7 laps here as we get that. So King up 2 positions, Giovanni up 2 positions, Thiago up 4 positions, Nico down 2 positions, Kuhlmann up 1, Lorenzino down 1, and of course we got Ticho up 3, Frank up 1, Mustache up 2, Thomas down 2, Fashion Gold up 3, and of course Fraser, the big loser, obviously with the contact between himself and the Hasses. I believe it was the Hass of Nico coming through Ascari, which sent him all the way down to the back. He has made a pit stop though, so he will not need to follow everyone into the pits, and everyone trying to overtake each other into the pit lane to try and get the best position possible. And well, we need to hope that they don't pick up any wing damage, because of course it is a bit too late once you cross the line to you know, change the front wing to be replaced. But that bait, Ticho has stayed out on his set of hard tyres, so not opting to come into the pits is Ticho. But let's have a look at the tyre selection from everyone else in the field. Aguado going for a set of soft compound tyres, same as Tiramisu, everyone else on a set of mediums.
It's a very interesting strategy call.
Yeah, absolutely, and of course,
I think they're kind of banking on another safety car, because obviously the mediums going 19 laps is going to be very hard at a push. So I think they're like Tiramisu and Aguado have gone for the soft tyres, hoping that there's going to be another safety car. Which around Monza is not a bad strategy call, but if it doesn't happen, then you're just gonna, well, you're not going to be in a good place if there's not another safety car and you're on softs with, well, when the safety car comes back in, probably about 17, 18 laps to go.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. So the mediums, to my knowledge, we're approaching like the upper limits of the mediums tyre life doing the remaining laps. So the mediums will be completely dead. What Aguado and Tiramisu have done is essentially said, okay, the mediums are going to be risky to go to the end from you. For the way I'm driving, like, you know, obviously I'm thinking like in the minds of Aguado and Tiramisu by here. A set of soft tyres. Try to take them for around about 8 laps a piece, and you have that flexibility of maybe putting on a set of mediums to be on tyres that you know to go to the end perfectly fine and have the pace advantage over everyone else, or maybe back-to-back soft top compound tyres.
Yeah, it could definitely work, as Tiramisu has actually gone on to hard tyres. So yeah, he pit for the softs and then he went back onto, well, he's got a fresh set of hards, so he must have chosen a harder compound selection going into this race.
Absolutely. I mean, Tiramisu in a great position to obviously go to the end of the race and not have the massive drop off in his tyres. But it does mean that at the back of the field, he's going to suffer early on because he just will not have the grip of the rest of the field ahead of him.
Yeah, but like you're saying, towards the end of this race, you'd think the mediums, with how long the stint would be, the mediums would start to fall off if anyone wants to go to the end. But the hards on Tiramisu, you'd think from this point they'd quite easily go to the end.
Yeah, absolutely. The safety car is going to be in this lap, so Aguado will control the pace, back up the rest of the field, and on those soft tyres, he needs to break DRS immediately. And to be honest, around here, it seems like he's got the pace to do so.
Yeah, even on the start that he had, when everyone behind him struggled with getting through turn 1, Aguado actually stretched the lead that was over 1 second, but as they got to the second chicane, he really started struggling as Aguado's gone, I believe. Yeah, he's gone. It's quite early, you'd have to say, for Monza, because Rara is going to be sitting in the slipstream. He's going to be gaining constantly on Aguado, so it is a little bit early, as Thomas is actually in the pits off the medium tyres. I don't think, well, I can't see if he's got any damage, but back to the front of the field, and Aguado, yeah, about half a second is the gap.
Sorry to cut in. Nico and Lorenzino side by side on the exit of the first chicane, and Lorenzino takes that position back. Nico did manage to overtake down in towards turn 1, but he got hung out to dry by Coolman on the outside of the exit, and that allowed Lorenzino back through. And Frank getting through as well, down the inside in the De La Rosa chicane, and brilliant move for Frank. He's making his way up the order. Tiramisu now up into P13, as I believe there was contact there between Harrison, Ticho and Fraser there down in 14th, 15th and 16th place. But right now this is not what Guado needs to do, because the gap is only just under 2 tenths, so it's just tipped over 2 tenths.
Yeah, it is. But look at the ERS usage for the both of them. They're both sitting around 50-60%, whereas Havmik is hovering around 70%. But King is in an even worse position ERS-wise. He's sitting at about 40%, and he's still using. But yeah, the gaps are huge between them. And yeah, the gaps are really starting to open up in the top 6.
Yep, Thiago already outside that 1 second window on Giovanno. Of course, Giovanno and Nico had the double stack in the pit lane, so that explains why Nico is down there in P10. Unfortunate for him, but when the safety car deploys, the safety car deploys, and normally it's the Williams pairing that are getting done over by that, but fortunately for them, not this time. But I would assume that if Paul was here, it would have happened to him.
Yeah, it probably would have. But looking back, King is really starting to struggle. He's on about 20% ERS. It's not looking good, and the edge of ERS window with someone like Giovanno behind, who we both know is quite good with his ERS saving. King's got to be getting a little bit worried now, as yeah, saw just going further back in the field, Nico and Frank once again battling between each other going into Ascari, and I believe Nico got the move back on Frank, so back into P9 for Nico, and he's starting to close out to Lorenzino now.
Yeah, DRS is now enabled again on lap number 12. Aguado has half a second and around about 6% more ERS to play with, but Havmik right now sitting on over 40%. He's in the best position possible right now, and King's outside that 1 second window.
Yeah, he is, and I just saw in the background Coolman actually got past Thiago, so P6 for Coolman, and he's still got about half a second to make up, just over, to get onto the back of Giovanni. So yeah, he's not going to get there on this lap. He is using a little bit of his ERS, and he is falling back a little bit as Thiago's putting the pressure on him.
And now this is the issue for Aguado. No DRS, not able to break away from DRS. It's just going to keep Rara and Havmik with him all the way until his soft tyres fall away from him, which will be, I want to say, like around lap 16, lap 17. I think they'll start to drop off relative to the mediums. But I mean, right now he does have a little bit more grip to work with, and that might help him stay ahead of Rara here, but for how much longer?
Yeah, I think the gap for you to ensure you get an overtake down this straight is about 3.5-4 tenths.
Oh, free wide Lorenzino, Thiago, and they both get past Koolman. Thiago holds on to P6. Lorenzino does not want to make a lunge, but he tries to get a better exit out of the Retafidio chicane, and he does get a better exit, but in the second phase, Thiago gets a bit of traction there in the second phase of the exit.
But yeah, I was saying before with King and his gap, he's just, ERS is nearly totally depleted, and yeah, Giovanno's got ahead of him. It was something that he had to look out for, and that's Thomas speeding into the pit lane, and yeah, he's retired. The first retiree of this race goes to Thomas in the Aston Martin.
Yeah, unfortunate for Thomas out of this race, and definitely has been a season of struggles for Thomas so far. His teammate Lorenzino currently on the back of Thiago, coming through Ascari now, and obviously on the exit. We'll be able to close out with just slipstream to play with, but Coolman is still there, as is Nico. We know Nico's got pace, and he could definitely be one to watch out for, but down the DRS straight once again. Start finish straight. Rara closing in on Aguado here. It's going to move to the inside, and I think Aguado's letting go.
Yeah, Aguado was Rara was much closer to the back of Aguado.
Ticho.
Ticho,
Coleman
I
and Nico,
believe.
sorry, side by side on the exit of the Retafilo chicane, and Nico on the inside of Curva Grande gets that position done. Ticho comes into the pit lane, retires from the session as Nico gets himself back up into P8, overtaking the Alpine of Coleman down here in P9. So, I mean, the curse continues, I think.
Yeah, it certainly looks this way, although finishing 9th isn't something to scoff about. Still getting a few points, but yeah, going from winning a race to finishing P9, it's not the greatest for Coolman, so hopefully in the second half of this race he can start to pull it back, but looking at the gap between King and Lorenzino, it's going to be very tough to do that unless we get another safety car.
Yeah, and of course with Giovanni now ahead of King, it has dragged both Giovanni and King into the fight at the front. And look at Havmik now getting a bit of a toe off Rara with DRS. This could be free wide coming in towards turn number 1. And now Havmik's going to stay in behind.
Side by side.
Still
he's going to get the better traction, I believe. And he's going to get a little bit of a toe from Rara. And yeah, he gets ahead of Aguado.
Yeah, absolutely. And that run coming out of
look at Giovanni
around the outside of Curva Grande. They have the inside now for the Del Roger chicane. Down the inside, little bit of wheel-to-wheel contact, but they keep it clean. The pair of them, and Giovanni's still there. They're still wheel-to-wheel. They're still side by side as they come through the first of the Lesmos. They're still side by side as they come through the second of the Lesmos, and they're still side by side. And now King with DRS and ERS is going to be free wide in towards Ascari. Surely not, as Aguado's going to drop down to P5 in this race. And now we have a bit of a repeat of what we've seen in F6 last season. Aguado and King battling out on track again.
Yeah, and Giovanni, all that battling has done has sort of just allowed the front two to pull away. Rara and Havmik are just pulling away, and yeah, this gap between 3rd, 4th and 5th is not quite, well, it's not that big, but yeah, Aguado is in the pits now, probably going to go for a set of mediums to go to the end of the race. So yeah, he's set to the end of the race. As looking at Lorenzino and Tiago side by side, Tiago concedes the inside for turn 2, and Lorenzino up into P6.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a quick reminder of how the championship standings are looking right now. Of course, Rara currently in P2 in this race, will be picking up 12 points, and of course with Nico in P6 right now as he's just been overtaken by Lorenzino. P6 would be 5 points, so that would be a 7-point swing, and that would bring the gap down to 1 singular point.
Yeah, it's not been a great race for Nico, but he's got an excellent run on. Lorenzino decides not to go for the overtake. He's hoping to get a better run out of Ascari than Lorenzino. Is using his overtake, going back to the front of the field. Rara's getting very close to the back of Havmik, and these two are having an absolute dogfight for the lead of this race, and I believe Rara's just gonna, yeah, Havmik, you'd think isn't gonna fight this. The amount of overspeed Rara's got, he's gonna breeze past.
Nico through on Lorenzino. It is synchronized overtakes for the Haas drivers. Giovanni and Nico getting the overtakes done on both Lorenzino and King, both moving up now into P3 and P5 respectfully. And in this current form right now, in this current position, it is Rara who will be leading the Drivers' Championship.
Yeah, P1 for Rara, I believe it's 16 points for P1 and 12 for P2, so he'll be leading the championship by 3 points now if it stays like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And
oh, he goes wide at the XLS mode too. Sorry to cut you off there, but he had quite a bad run through Lesmo too, and he ends up really wide on the exit, so it's compromised his run. But he's still got quite a healthy gap to Havmik behind.
Havmik has a healthy amount of ERS to play with as well, as King with another fantastic run out of Ascari closes up on Giovanno in towards Parabolka. Does not want to risk going for the overtake there, but with DRS should be able to get that move back on the start finish straight, as we should see Havmik up ahead also looking to get the move done, and yes he is, he'll have the outside line, but he'll get done before the break-in of turn number 1. Runs a little bit deep, that will compromise him, may allow Aurora to come back at him here, but unfortunately for Aurora unable to do so, and that little mistake from Havmik in turn 1 has allowed King and Giovanni to close up by about 3/10.
Yeah, as the gap is always seemingly always closing. There's not much battling going on between King and Giovanni, but there's quite a bit of battling going on between Rara and Havmik. So as long as the front two still battle, it's happy days for King and Giovanni.
Yeah, absolutely, and of course one thing that they will have to keep an eye on as well is what Aguado is going to do in this race. Of course, Aguado has made a second pit stop in this race. Coming for the Les Mo's right now is Aguado. Of course, 10.2 off the back of Fraser down in 14th and 15th. Let's have a look and see how far he is off the leader. And the gap is 22.4 seconds, 22.5 now.
Yeah, it's quite a big gap that he has to make up. But one thing I think would, well, ruin his race and destroy any chances as if there is another safety car. So it's a bit of a risky strategy for him, but he's hoping that it doesn't go too horribly wrong for him, as looking at this battle for P10 is between the two Mercedes, the Ferrari and Harrison. But yeah, Fashion Gold completely cuts off turn 2 and picks himself up a 3-second penalty for his worries. So yeah, it's not looking good for Fashion Gold, but Moustache gets a move done on Tiramisu, and they've got Harrison and Fraser all lying astern behind him.
Yeah, and this is where it's going to get very interesting. Obviously, Fashion Gold is obviously with that time penalty is going to be out of contention for P10 unless more time penalties are picked up by the rest of the field. Frank on the back of this train for P5 also going to be completely out of it with the time penalty that he has currently accumulated. Coleman, last week's race winner, currently doing well in P7, still in this train as King closes up once again to Giovanni on the exit of Ascari. He's just getting a fantastic run out of that corner, and it is helping him out massively. But with DRS, we're going to see Rara concede P1, we're going to see Giovanni concede P3, and Lorenzino a little bit too far off the back of Nico, so Nico's going to hold on to P5 for this time around, but the gap between Nico and Lorenzino is beginning to close in on the gap between King and Giovanni.
Yeah, it is, and just looking at Aguado, the gap is definitely shrinking. About 2 laps ago it was about 10 seconds, 10.5 seconds. It's now close to 7.5 seconds, so 3 seconds gained in about 2 laps. It's obviously it's still got a mountain to climb, has Aguado, but the longer it goes, the worse the tyres of the people ahead of him are going to be, and he's going to start making inroads on the field.
The question will be, will any of these drivers come into their pits and put on a set of softs? Of course, they've done 12 laps on the mediums right now, and while it is 12 laps technically, I mean, there was a couple of laps under the safety car, so they might be able to stretch out an extra lap or 2, but the soft tyres potentially going to come into play for the rest of the field versus Aguado late into this race. But whether we'll see him or not, time will tell, as Rara once again retakes the race lead from Havmik, as Giovanni once again retakes the final podium position. Lorenzino retakes P5. A little bit of contact there
contact.
between Nico and Lorenzino on the break-in in the Rettifilio chicane,
Cool,
and that's
man.
going to allow Coolman to maybe have a little luck, but Coolman backs out of it, not wanting to commit to any risky overtakes there. And Thiago also having a little peek on the Alpine in front of him, as well as the battle in 4P5. They're starting to bunch up again, and it's starting to get a little bit spicy in the midfield.
I think he must have had a better run out of the Rettifilio.
And here comes
Yeah, he's
King.
actually going to get a move done here.
King clean through on the run down in towards Ascari. Havnik and Lala hold position coming through Ascari, but King gets the overtake done in towards Ascari. Not the overtaking place I would be looking for. I would have preferred having the DRS down the start finish straight and then making the overtake happen. But
Lorenzino. That was so close to him spinning round the Parabolica. Sorry to cut you off there, but I was just on board with Lorenzino and he had a massive tank slapper going through the Parabolica, and he was very lucky to just keep it on the track. But yeah, I was gonna just mention that this battling between Giovanno and King has not only extended the gap to Rara ahead, but it's also brought everyone that was in that train behind Lorenzino back into the fight for P3. Well, obviously apart from Frank, who's got a penalty, but Thiago, Nico, Coolman, Lorenzino, all within DRS of Giovanno now. Well, Giovanno and King.
yeah, and lap 22 of 27. Havnik leads away. Rara in second place. It looks like it's going to be one of these two drivers to take the top step of the podium, but the final spot on the podium up for grabs. Giovanno, King, Lorenzino, Coolman, Nico, Thiago, all within an opportunity of getting a podium here in today's race. As contact, mustache in the wall, and he's out. Is that going to trigger a safety car here? Safety car.
It
lap
is.
22 of 27. Aguado obviously was closing up to the back of the pack, but I don't think he'll be able to get a jump on everyone. Everyone's coming in now for fresh soft tyres. If I'm Aguado, I need to stay out. I cannot come into the pits. I have to stay out and get track position.
Yeah, but you're just going to end up, well, Aguado chooses to come in.
So Aguado there making the decision to come into the pit lane. That, of course, does mean the race has again been equalised here on lap 23. We shouldn't have any DRS for the remainder of this race now, as I believe we will probably get going on lap 25. Actually, we might have it for the final run down into Ascari on lap 27, but this has just made things very, very interesting, because now Giovanno, King, Lorenzino, Coolman, Thiago, all these guys are now potentially in the running for a race win.
Yeah, you just got to feel sorry for Aguado though, just because he managed to get the pole position. He managed to get a really good, well, he managed to, well, hold off Rara and Havnik for the majority of the first stint, and then he chose to pit for the softs under the first safety car, which basically confined him to a two-stop. And the fact that the safety car came out when it did, when he was just about catching up to the back of the pack, it's really unfortunate for Aguado.
Yeah, the thing is, though, I don't think anyone else would have come into the pits. I think they would have stretched out their tyres to the end.
Yeah.
So I don't think Aguado would have been able to go ahead and take a victory unless we saw mass punches going on up ahead. But I mean, there's still a possibility of points on the board for Aguado here. As long as he plays this right, maybe get a couple of overtakes in on the likes of Tiramisu, Fraser, Harrison, and obviously the 3 second time penalties on Frank and Fashion Gold obviously will give him a bit of confidence of taking something away from this race. But what is going to be up for grabs right now is, of course, this race win. Of course, it was for a long time Aguado, Half Milk, or Rara's race to win. And then Aguado making the strategy to come in and put on a set of softs under the first safety car, effectively put him on a two-stop strategy, and it's taken him out of the race. And it was just between Half Milk and Rara for majority of the second stint in this race. But safety car now brings Giovanni back in, brings King back in, brings Lorenzino back in, brings Coolman into it, brings Thiago into it, brings Nico into it. Of course, Nico in the under the first safety car, of course, having a double stack with Giovanni in that first safety car period, so he lost several positions. He has an opportunity now to try and claw himself back up into a good position in this race as well. Of course, the only two-time race winner so far this season is Nico. We got Giovanni, who has, of course, won the first race of the season as well. Obviously, Koolman won last time out in Austria, and that is 4 of the race winners from the 5 races we've had so far this season. Koolman right now, though, is breaking the curse.
Yeah, he is. I was just going to mention it to you, just saying, well, I was going to mention it and just ask you, if he does finish P6, would you say that the curse is still active here? But P6 is still a decent amount of points, so to answer my own question, I think it does break the curse for me.
Well, I mean, the curse has been more than just where they've ended up finishing now. Obviously, there's been instances that have knocked some drivers all the way down to the back. There's been some mistakes that have happened as well from a couple of the race winners in the past, which has contributed to them falling down the order as Half Milk set up to get us going once again on lap 25. Rara's going to have to stay in and try to stay as close as possible. And there we go, Half Milk has gone. And he has caught Rara a little bit napping on the restart, but not enough where Rara is going to be feeling under pressure that Half Milk's managed to get away from him.
Yeah, it started off as a good restart for Half Milk, but then Thiago. Rara was still... Oh, Thiago gets a move done on Coolman, and Frank actually gets a move done on Nico.
They're still side by side though, coming through Curva Grande as Nico on the inside. He'll turn to the outside for the De La Roja chicane as Nico tries to outbrake Frank, and in fact Frank does back out of it before the break-in of the De La Roja chicane, so Nico gets P8. But yeah, what I was going to say with regards to the curse, and that it's been a lot of like incidents or driver errors which have caused some of the previous race winners to fall down the order massively. Coolman, as it currently stands, it's just he's driven his race. He hasn't made any mistakes. He just hasn't had the podium pace. This time around, but he is doing his race and he's not making any driver errors, and no incidents have happened involving him. So the curse for me is broken just on that basis.
Yeah. And just while you were talking, I noticed Thiago has picked up a 3-second time penalty.
Look
at all these.
Into turn 1 for the race lead. As here comes Giovanni, Rara, and Half Milk, and looks like Giovanni's going to back out. Rara's going to back out, and King is just sitting in behind, ready to pounce on these guys up ahead of him.
Harrison gets a move done on, well, not quite. Side by side with Fashion Gold, through the exit turn 2. Both of them on the ERS on the overtake. Look at Fraser coming in. Of course, still side by side with the 2, but Fashion Gold is able to keep the position ahead of Harrison, and Harrison is still there, and Fraser fighting, but at the moment, who's that? That's Tiramisu. Yeah, he went round. But yeah, the 3 people with penalties all next to each other on the track, so it could be good points here for Harrison if he manages to stick with Fashion Gold here.
Yeah, same with Fraser as well, but we're going to revert back up to the front as Rara down the inside in towards Power Walker on Have Milk takes the race lead as we come on to the final lap of the race. Who is going to be taking victory here in Monza? DRS is enabled on this final lap as Have Milk's going to try and come back. Look at Giovanno, free wide down in towards the Rettifilio chicane. It'll be Giovanno on the inside, and are they going to make it through with minimal contact between them? King looking for a switchback. King, can he get this move done? No, he stays in P3, but that is Giovanno all the way down to P6 with that bit of contact and a free wide into turn 1. It just didn't work out, and now
something had to give.
Now there's a big question at hand. Obviously, DRS will be activated.
Coolman.
Oh, the curse continues. Lap 27 of 27, Coolman. The curse has continued, but Rara gonna look to take the race lead on the final lap. King is closing in as well, but this is where King has been very strong. The run out of Ascari. Can he get the run that he needs to make this work out for him? Bit of a slide, and that's gonna allow Lorenzino. Oh, down into one Powerball again. Look at Hamlet around the outside. He's going to have the outside for Powerball around the outside. He goes side by side in the final corner for the race win. It's going to be Rara holding the inside line. But will Havmik take it off him in the end? It's a drag race and Havmik takes victory here in Monza. What a fantastic end to that race. Havmik with a brilliant victory there at the end on Rara. King comes through to complete the podium. Another drag race on the line against Lorenzino. And Giovanno comes through for P5 in the end ahead of his teammate Nico. Ladies and gentlemen, what a race that was. What a spectacle that was at the end. And unfortunately for Coolman, the curse continues in terms of the race wins, and I think if I'm Rara, I'm kind of happy that Havmik took the race win in the end after seeing what has gone on. But it is Havmik who does take victory here in Monza, his second podium of the season. Of course, getting a podium in Vegas, round number 4, and he takes the top step of the podium this time out in Monza. Of course, Rara, again, another consistent finishing position, obviously picking up P2. He's just closing and continuing to close that gap on Nico in the championship. And Giovanno with a strong point finish, but he doesn't close in as much as he would have liked on his teammate up ahead. But Lorenzino also closing up a bit as well on Nico. But let's run you through the order one more time. It is, of course, Havmik who takes victory ahead of Rara by 0.06 of a second between the AlphaTauri and the Williams driver. King completes the podium in P3 for the Scuderia Ferrari, and then of course Lorenzino comes through in P4 by less than a tenth. And of course Giovanno in P5 with Nico in P6, Fraser in P7, Aguado P8 with the fastest lap for him in the McLaren. P9 goes the way of Thiago, and Frank rounds out the final point paying position in P10. Outside the top 10 we have Fashion Gold, Harrison, Coolman, Tiramisu, and then of course our non-finishers in Mustache, Ticho and WR Thomas. And what an end to that race there, Quinn. A absolute spectacle at the end. And drag race for the top step of the podium, drag race for the final spot on the podium. The race winner curse continues with Coolman there falling down the order at the end of the race. Of course, lap 27, it all fell apart, and the curse continues. The curse continues. A race winner cannot have a good race following it. It just doesn't happen here in F4. But it is, of course, Havmik who does take victory here tonight. And what a drive from him, and also what a drive from Rara as well. Both of them consistently up there.
Yeah, and just talking about a curse. Well, if you're Rara and you're just constantly getting P2s, you're never going to get cursed. So that's the consistency for Rara there, is just paying off, because it's getting very close between himself and Nico for the championship lead.
Yeah, I believe Nico with a P6 finish. Of course, it's 5 points picked up for him. And of course, Rara with a P2, 12 points. So the gap closes by 7. The gap now 1 singular point between Nico and Rara. And of course, over the course of the season, this is how consistent that Nico has, Rara has been so far this season. It was back-to-back P4 finishes in Suzuka and of course Qatar, followed by his first podium of the season, round 3 at Hungary. Then of course he had a 10th place finish in Las Vegas, which was his only poor race for him so far this season. And of course a P4 in Austria last time out, and of course P2 again here tonight. Whereas Nico, after winning two races at round 2 and round 4, followed them up immediately with a 15th place and a 14th place with no points on the board. But he did pick up a P2 in Suzuka, so he has 3 podiums to his name, and of course a P6 here tonight. Honestly, I am so excited now for next week, because of course next week we will be traveling to Singapore. Honestly, a personal favorite track of mine to commentate over, to watch all the action, and Singapore is going to be an incredible race to end off what is 2023 here in PSGL.
Yes, of course. Like you're saying, Singapore, it's going to be a very interesting track. Of course, it's one of the longest laps on the calendar, even with the changes, and it's going to be a very interesting one. Of course, in that part of the world, the weather switches up seemingly every minute, so could potentially have a wet race, which around Singapore is very interesting to watch. So yeah, it's going to be all to play for.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, Singapore next week, round number 7, the last race of 2023 here in PSGL on the PlayStation TS for F1. Of course, then we'll be back in the new year for round 8 at Spain, round 9 at Miami, Silverstone round number 10, and of course Bahrain for the season finale. But an incredible race here at Monza. Is definitely going to make the championship very interesting. The curse does continue for race winners. Next up will be Havmik, if he can break that curse. I mean, I don't know if we're going to see it happen, but ladies and gentlemen, that's going to bring an end here tonight in F4. I have been Michael Edwards. He has been Quinn, and we'll catch you next week for round number 7 when we travel to Singapore. Until then, guys, it's goodbye.
See you.
He's got the inside, all here is through, on the left-hand side, hooks the apex, gets on the power nicely, and that is job done. Jarno Opmeer now, to the last couple of corners now, his finest drive, his greatest drive, and he's done it at the Circuit of the Americas. He returns to the top step of the podium. Once again, the ghost is back. Jarno Opmeer wins the US Grand Prix in a stunning Grand Prix.